Today, I'm going to talk about an opportunity that I see going on right now that nobody else is talking about, and it has to do with getting really good deals on HEX right now. So if you were going to buy and stake HEX, you're going to want to pay attention to this because there's some really good deals that people are just leaving on the table right now. And for some reason, this isn't really part of the popular discussion. So welcome back, HEX Tribe. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the Maximus Perpetuals and how they're basically underpriced right now. And stick with me till the end because I'm going to go into all the exact math and tell you just how underpriced they are and just how much the treasury value could really be theoretically. So whether or not you're a staker or even a trader, I know I really don't recommend trading, but this is just such an obvious opportunity to me that I feel like I should tell people about it just because I can't believe no one else has mentioned this before. But if you guys don't know, just a quick background, what the Maximus Perpetual smart contracts are basically pooled together HEX. So in HEX, obviously you can stake it and earn more HEX, but you earn more yield by staking larger amounts together. And so what a couple of developers have done is they've offered these perpetual staking pool contracts. Basically, a bunch of people just pool their HEX together in a trustless, immutable smart contract that's staked on behalf of a whole bunch of people at once. So think of each of these perpetual tokens as just one giant HEX stake. So buying one of these tokens gives you the redeemable rights to redeem all the HEX underlying that stake plus all the yield that that stake has earned by the time it's over. And the cool thing is that it's a literal guarantee by the code that one of these tokens is going to give you a certain amount of HEX back at the end of the stake term. I mean, it really is simply a mathematical guarantee in the code, but let's start from square one, okay? So I just explained what the perpetuals are. If you haven't checked them out already, the links are in the description below to learn more. The umbrella term for all of the perpetuals is known as the Maximus DAO, or Decentralized Autonomous Organization, but underneath the umbrella of the Maximus DAO, there are 5 tokens. There's Maxi, but more importantly, what I'm talking about today are called the Perpetuals, which are Base, Trio, Lucky, and Deci. They're called Perpetuals because they get restaked every time their term is up. So Base is a 1-year pooled stake, Trio is a 3-year, Lucky is a 7-year, and Deci is a 10-year stake. Now all that's going to matter to you near the end, so stick around till the end because let's start back from square one. Look at the HEX price today, guys. The current price of HEX on the screen right here, we're seeing it's 4.15 cents in USD terms, okay? But now watch when I go through the charts of the perpetual tokens, the 4 perpetual tokens. This is the base token. It's worth 4.06 cents. This is the Trio token. Again, that's a pooled 3-year stake. It's worth 4.2 cents. This is the Lucky token. It's worth 4.06 cents as well. And finally, this is the Deci token. This is the 10-year pooled stake. This is worth 4.162 cents. Now, what was the original price of HEX again? Remember, guys, it was 4.15. And do you notice anything unusual about a couple of these? Well, a couple of these perpetuals aren't even up to the current market price of HEX. So we've got 4.15, which should be the fair USD value that you can sell 1 HEX for today. But on Base and on Lucky in particular, the value of these tokens isn't even at the current market price of HEX. So even though the value of these tokens should be slightly higher than the market price of HEX when you factor in the amount of theoretical yield that they've already accrued, and they've been around for 60 days, and we can calculate that, which we're going to do at the end, stick around. But these are such obvious good deals to me that I don't know why anyone hasn't bought them up to price parity at least with the actual HEX price. And that goes for Base and Lucky. But even though Trio and Deci are a little bit higher, they're at 4.16 and 4.2. It's a little bit higher than the actual HEX price, but in theory, they still should be at a much higher price. And so I don't know why people haven't bought these up to the regular price yet. I already own all 4 of these perpetuals, but if you guys want to, this is just a really obvious opportunity if you're into pretty easy trades or pretty easy money-making opportunities. So let's go over to the Maximus website. This is maximus.cash. Again, link in the description below. I recommend you read everything on here. This gives you the overview of basically what happens with these pooled stakes is they accrue interest or yield every day, right? And that factors into what's called the treasury value. The treasury value is the theoretical value of all the HEX initially invested into these pools and what they're earning over time. And so because these pools have been around for 60 days, they've accrued some level of yield, including the original principal that everybody pulled together, and they should have some theoretical optimal market price. But the market value, because markets are irrational, we go through phases of premiums and discounts, just like we're seeing, or in the past we saw a huge premium on Maxi versus the actual HEX price. People were kind of overpaying for Maxi relative to what it was actually worth on the underlying treasury value. Now we're seeing these discounts on a couple of the perpetuals. Well, technically we're seeing a discount on all 4 of the perpetuals. So pay attention and think about if you want to take advantage of this or not. I'm just saying, I'm just going to leave this here for whoever wants it. And let's go into the actual math. So this is a subdomain of the Maximus website. It's perpetuals.maximus.cash. Here you can go and see for base, trio, lucky, and deci how much original HEX was in each one. So because the total supply of base, for example, is 100 million, and at the time of minting, there was a 1-for-1 minting of HEX per base, and the same goes for all the perpetuals. It was 1-to-1 minting for HEX, so that means originally there was 100 million HEX pooled together to mint 100 million base. And now we can hop on over to go.hex.com and type in 100 million in the stake amount and 365 days, because remember, base was a yearly stake. That'll give you 5,066 T-shares, and that's all that we need to do the really rough math to calculate how much yield has already been earned on this perpetual contract in particular. So let's go walk through the theoretical treasury value of what each of these 4 perpetuals should be. So base, for example, remember there was 100 million original HEX that was staked for 1 year, and that got us 5,066 T-shares in that base contract. Now, if we assume a payout of 6.1 HEX per T-share per day, and we know for a fact that 60 days have passed so far at the time of this video from when those perpetual contracts were staked, well, so far that would yield 1.8 million additional HEX. Okay, so if you add that to the original and you divide by the original, simple math tells us that each base should theoretically be worth 1.85% higher than the market price of HEX in USD. So just take that, whatever HEX price was, times 1.0185, and you'll get what the theoretical base price should be. So up until the price of base hits that value, which would be something like maybe 4.2, 4.25, it's really underpriced right now. And so for whatever reason, these perpetuals, all 4 of them, are oversold, and there's just a lot of opportunity on the table here. Same goes for trio, lucky, and deci. I did the same math, and again, this is rough math. It's not exact because I'm just using a constant 6.1 number for the daily T-share per day, and I also didn't factor in the exact amount of T-shares that were purchased at the time. So if anything, because there were more T-shares purchased at the actual time of staking 60 days ago, all these numbers are probably actually a little bit higher, but this is a lowball estimate. So trios should theoretically be worth at least 2.4% higher than the HEX price in USD. Lucky should theoretically be worth 3.19% higher than HEX in its treasury value. And deci should be worth 4.5% higher than HEX in its treasury value, or more, when you consider that 60 days ago, all of these stakes actually got a few more T-shares. I just got these T-share values by the amount that you would get today, but the T-share rate was lower 60 days ago. So again, all these numbers are a bit higher. So my math is a bit off, but it's actually still beneficial. So what's the point here, guys? Whether or not you're a trader or a long-term staker, this kind of makes sense no matter who you are. Now, I don't recommend trading. I don't like it, but this is a trader's wet dream right now. You know what I mean? Like, granted, there's no telling how long these are going to stay underpriced. They could stay underpriced for 1 more week, or they could stay underpriced for 1 more year. It could be many, many months until we see the actual market value of these perpetual contracts go up and meet what they're supposed to be in the treasury value. So it's not an overnight trade. It's not a quick flip. And more importantly, you should be looking at this as a staker, right? So if you were going to stake HEX anyway, and if you were going to make a 1-year stake or a 3-year stake or a 7-year stake or a 10-year stake anyway, strongly consider buying one of these because they're underpriced. And not only that, but for these later stakes like lucky and deci, the 7 and 10 year, and even the 3-year, the 3-year stake is probably going to be when we're back in the peak of the bull market. I mean, if I'm just speculating here. And then lucky and deci are so far in the future that you should really be probably buying these tokens anyway, because you're going to save so much on gas costs. Because by that time, in 7 years and 10 years time, gas could be astronomical, both especially on Ethereum, but even on Pulse Chain. Think about 10 years from now, how much can happen. And there's other benefits of these tokens as well, such as instant market liquidity. But that's also a benefit, a blessing and a curse, so to speak. So one thing to be careful of is if you're looking at buying these tokens as actual staking tokens, they don't have the same staking mechanism that HEX does that essentially saves yourself from yourself. So I really like that about staking original legacy HEX on go.hex.com, is that I know I can't unstake it without paying heavy penalties. So it saves me from my weak paper lettuce hands, right? So if you've got weak paper lettuce hands, you might not want to go with these. And that's the only scenario I could see where you might shake yourself out. If you're really, really that paper handed and you can't hold these for a long period of time, at least long enough until they go back up to what they should be at the treasury value. Again, that could be from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. I have no idea. But by the time these are actually redeemable, they literally are guaranteeing you a higher amount of real HEX upon expiry. So even if there was a deficit, even if by the time, for whatever reason that these were redeemed, that these were still below the treasury value, you'd be able to buy these at a discount and just get extra HEX for really cheap prices. But it's almost like a 99.99% certainty that by the time these actually reach their expiry date, they're going to be back up at their treasury value. I mean, the laws of supply and demand it's incredibly unlikely that these are going to have a discount forever. But that said, again, the discount could last maybe longer than you might think. But if you're a long-term thinker already, or if you're just an opportunist, just realize that over the next few months, these could trend back up to their treasury value. And so if you were going to buy HEX anyway, and you were going to stake HEX anyway, consider buying these really highly discounted staked HEXs that are basically pre-staked for you. Now, if you're an opportunist and you just want to do a quick flip whenever they reach treasury value, that's fine. Do whatever you want. But if you do really intend on holding this and staking this, you should also consider the Diamond Hands contract. So back here on the perpetuals page, over here there's a button called Diamond Hands. And the Diamond Hands contract basically allows you to stake these perpetual tokens, but it's not quite the same as HEX staking, okay? There's not quite as high of penalties, which is why I still like the OG legacy HEX staking better, because the penalties are much harsher. But this will still save you from your weak soy paper hands, because for example, if you unlock early, you're going to pay a 20% penalty. Now that's not as bad as the penalties from the original HEX contract, but it's still a penalty that will make you really put your money where your mouth is and really do what you said you were going to do. But again, if you just want to hold these and wait till they hit treasury value again and then flip them back for regular HEX, I don't know why people wouldn't want to do that. I mean, I already own all 4 of these, so my bags are pretty packed right now, but I just figured I'd leave this here for whoever wants it. Massive discounts on all coins, especially base and lucky, but even on Trio and Deci. Trio seems a little bit attractive because it might coincide with kind of the peak of the next bull market, in my opinion. Obviously, no crystal ball. But the 7 and 10 year stakes, they've got a ton of HEX in them. So the Deci stake, for example, has a ton of HEX backing it, 500 million HEX, right? Which means that it should really be about 5% higher than the HEX price today. So that one looks pretty attractive to me too, even lucky. But guys, do whatever you want. I'm not telling you what to do. I never do. As always, think for yourself, think critically, make your own decisions, and take personal responsibility for your actions. That's what crypto's all about. No finger pointing, no crying, no one's making you do anything, but I'm just going to leave this right here. Okay, I'm just going to leave this video right here for whoever may or may not want to take advantage. And guys, if you want more value like this, check out my Patreon below. I offer a membership where we can talk about strategy really in depth on all kinds of opportunities like this. And there's also a ton of other exclusive member benefits, so make sure you check that out below if you like this video. And as always, like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.